different things. We're going to talk about situational base running from the offensive side of things, and then we're going to talk about situational defense from the defensive side. So on the offensive side of things, we're going to talk about going first to third. We're going to talk about hit and runs. We're going to talk about the visual of in, out, over. And then we're going to talk about once we do get to third base on the approach from second base, picking up the coach, and then whether or not he's telling us and what his commands are going to be, whether they're going to be stand up, make a turn, slide left, slide right, and it depends on how we are gonna look at the field. So I have a little league field set up already. So we have first base, second base, and third base. So although not the depth, but it's just for the visual of where we're going to be for this demonstration. So as we move forward towards first base, we've already talked about how we can get there with our turns, getting out right away on a ball hit to the outfield, or if we're going to run straight through, break down, look over your right shoulder. So being at first base, we want to know the different commands, right? We want to know what our coach is telling us, how many outs there are, where our outfielders are located. We're going to notice all those things. So once we figure that out, now the game can start to be played. So depending on what we want to take off, either our left foot on the bag, right foot off, and our crossover and our shuffle step to get out to our lead, or if we want to take our right foot on the base and left foot off, which is our more aggressive lead, where that dangerous first step as we hit in our part 2 of our base running. So part 1 of our base running. So once we come off the bag, we want to make sure we have our aggressive lead. We want to make sure we're picking up our coach, eyes up on the pitcher. If the pitch is delivered to the way to the hitting zone and no contact is made, we're going to cross over, return, and we're going to head for the outside part of the base, the side facing towards the outfield. We're going to dive to that back corner. So the first baseman, when he sets himself up, he has the longer tag to try and get us on the other side of that. All right. So as we come off, we take our lead. Our eyes are up. So we're going to shuffle. And we're going to see if nothing's put in play, we're going to cross over and return. If the guy's behind us, we want to pick him up coming behind us, or if he's in front of us, we want to make sure he doesn't cover back up. If he doesn't, we're going to turn around and look. We're going to recover, and we're going to look inside the diamond for a possible overthrow or any other type of play that may be put in noticed. So now we're looking ahead. We're going to look to go first to third here. So we have our hit and runs, or we have our basic, just normal first to third situations where we're going to try and take the extra base. If the ball is behind us, we're going to rely on our third base coach as we make our turn. If the ball is in front of us, we're going to rely on our own eyes, but we're still going to pick up our third base coach just to know whether we're going to slide or stand up or make that turn as we come across the diamond. So as we go back, we're going to take our lead. We're going to get out. We're going to look inside. Pitch is on its way. We make our turn. So if this is a hit and run, we're going to react right away. We're going to peek inside within our first 2 or 3 steps because we want to see where the ball is getting put and played for. So if it's out in front of us, now we're going to go in, out, over with our visual head looks, and we're going to pick up our third base coach before we hit second base. Okay, so here's our lead. We're going to make sure we get off to a good lead. Once we do our crossover, we're going to come off right away, drive right off. We're going to peek inside. Then we're going to look out, and then we look over before we get to third base. Before we get to second base, we pick up our third base coach. Okay, so now here's our visual. In, out, over, hitting the inside front corner of the base towards the infield with our left foot. And then here's another demonstration. We're going to go left foot, good body tilt, make our way over. So once we get our lead, again, we shuffle on this play. We're going to look because the ball is behind us now on a regular first to third. So we're going to necessarily always pick up our third base coach in that spot. So that's that ball where if the first baseman's holding us on, lefty up, maybe it's beat him, it's by him. Maybe that's a ball we can advance to. Maybe it's not well hit, but it's hit up the middle. And you know where your infielders are, you can advance the third base in there. And again, listening to your third base coach, whether he's saying up, hold the bag, get on the base, hold the bag, or make a turn to look inside to see if maybe there's an overthrow on the throw that's coming back. Because if he's telling us to hold the base, it probably means the play is coming to third in that spot. So if we're standing up and there's really no play, we still need to hold the bag because we don't want to overslide the bag because we know that third base we can't overrun. So shuffle, ball gets by us, we see it through, we're in, out, over, picking up the third base coach. He's telling us what to do. So he's telling us we can make a turn, and now we can recover and look inside the diamond to see where the ball is being played. If there's an overthrow, we can break to third. We can break from third to home in that spot. But what we don't want to get back picked. So at third base. So we don't want the third baseman to be on the bag expecting to throw. It doesn't come in, but then we rounded the base when we shouldn't have, and the third baseman has it. Or you want our third base coach to tell us where to slide, whether you slide inside or outside. Is always important because depending on where the throw is coming, because he can see the line of the flight of the ball. So we're off here, in, out, over, pick him up. He's telling us on the bag, hold the base, and now we can recover and look for that overthrow while we're on the base, which is super important. So our coach could be telling us if we're standing up, if we're coming around. It's super important to understand those verbal cues and not mess those up, because you never want to slide when your coach is telling you up, because he may be seeing a ball behind you be lost in the infield in that spot, and that's your opportunity to maybe take an extra base. So now we're going to talk about being at second base and our different type of leads at second base. So while we're at second base, part 2 of what we talked about last week on the base running tutorial, where if there's 2 outs, we're going to take a different lead than if there's just less than 2 outs. So with 1 out, we're going to lead off the inside front corner of the base, and we're going to get into our walking lead as we come, and then we're going to shorten our primary, extend our secondary, so that we're not in no man's land. We cross over and we return. If the ball is not put in play, we pick up our second baseman and our shortstop on the visual to get back. We also have a good line of sight by our coaches. So with 2 outs, we're taking a deeper lead. We're going to diagonal back into the base pass, keeping our feet moving. And then once we go, we can shuffle, and we're going to have a good turn radius as we approach third base, because we're a little bit deeper than we are with our lead than with the lead we have with 2 outs. Sorry, with less than 2 outs. So now as we come off, different types of scenarios are gonna happen on how we structure our lead and how we come off the base here. Being able to see that ball through is important. So if there's 2 outs and there's 1 out, we need to know what the guy in front of us is doing. We maybe need to see that ball through into the outfield, and then we can advance. Or if our third base coach in that sense is telling us he can wheel us around and we can score, which I think is another important teaching concept of this. Because if there is a guy in front of you and the contact play is on with less than 2 outs, but with 1 out, most of the time it is on. And if there's a guy in front of us, we have to know what's going on. So the third base coach can give that guy the verbal cue, but you may mess up the sign at second base. And if you run up right on top of the other guy, there's going to be a good chance we're going to get doubled up. There's going to be a play there, and that's not going to be a good thing. So we want to make sure if the see it through is on, we need to see it through. If the contact play is on, we need to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do in that sense. We don't want to cost our team a run or cost our team an out. But importance of the communication and understanding the situation, because we may put a contact play on with 1 out, with less than 1 out, with nobody out, or we also may put a see it through play on with nobody out or 1 out on. Because it depends on who's up in the order. Maybe the 9 hitter's up, but we want to give our chance at the top of the order to hit with 1 out with 2 runners in scoring position in that sense. And maybe if they bring the infield in, he's got an even better chance to score on that. Those are both things that are important as we look at this actual situation of the base running here. So we go, we take our lead, we're going off, we're on contact, we're reading downward angle, and we're off. If the guy goes and gets caught off in no man's land, then we just got to keep going to third base and then let him run back, and then let the umpires decide who's in, who's out, and who's safe. The batted runner at that point in time should be able to continue to safely run as far as he could possibly go, and if he can get to second base, then he should continue to second base. So if you're the batter in that spot, you want to make sure that you get all the way around to second base if that's possible, and that's in that instance to put yourself in a runner in scoring position. Now that's going to come up on the defensive side of this as well. We're going to feature that in a little bit. All right, so now we're going to make our way over to third base. Again, how we take that first primary lead is important, whether we're going to use the back part, the outfield side of the base, to get into foul territory, or we're going to use the front corner of the base closest to home plate to get in foul territory. So we're going to go left, right, down, left foot crosses over, right foot spins around. We take the line of sight away from the catcher so he has no throwing angle, and we pick up the third baseman's eyes to see if he's covering up. If he's not covering up, we're going to recover, look inside the diamond for possible overthrow. So this time we're going to be a little bit more aggressive. I'm going to use the front corner of the lead, again, shorten my primary, expand my secondary, right, left down, left foot steps over, right foot crosses in, take that line of sight around, and then we look inside the diamond for the overthrow. Okay, so now depending on the situation. So if there's one out, we're going to maybe run the contact play here. Most of the time, we're going to run the contact play. So I'm going to get out in foul territory. I know where my infielders are. If they're up, they're up. Even if they're up, you may get a verbal from the coach that says, "Hey, anywhere but the pitcher and the catcher and anywhere but the pitcher and the first and third baseman, pitcher in the corners, or anywhere but the pitcher. We're going to run the corners in that spot." Like all those things are stuff that may come from the verbal from the coach. But it's important that if there's a runner behind us, we're going to need to know what's going on, because if you're going on contact and the other guy's seeing it through and there's the communication level's not there, we could run into a possible scenario that's less than advantageous for us to score a run in this situation. So we need to understand there's the verbal signs, there's the physical signs, and there's the actual situation that dictates what's going on. So and the coach can change that at any point in time. But you're going to need to be able to roll with that over the course of the game if there's a dirt ball or whatnot. So if we're on contact, we're just going to we read downward angle, and downward angle is a lot different than what we're talking about. And so if we're going on contact, the guy behind, hopefully the on deck batter's in there. He's going to tell us to stand up or to get down, inside, outside, and the direction to slide to try and avoid that tag if at ever possible. So seeing it through is one thing, because we obviously want to see all line drives that go through with 2 outs or more. Sorry, with 2 outs or less, we're going to be able to see that line step back on line drives. But seeing it through in the infield is a little bit different when we're running the contact play. We want to read downward angle. And downward angle, see that ground ball in the infield. If we're seeing it through, we may need to take a shuffle step. But what we do is we don't want to get too far off where the third baseman is right there. Maybe he can make a dash at us and get us as we come off in our secondary, because we're too far down the line, and that because we expanded our primary and then we expanded our secondary even further and put us in a tough spot to possibly even get back in there. So the other thing is we want to take notice on where we are on fly balls here. We never want to turn our back to the field unless it's in foul territory. We always want to tag up on foul balls. So whether they're first or second or third base on the bases, as soon as we see a foul ball go up with anything less than 2 outs, we're going back to the base regardless to get a tag up. And the ability to understand that right away is going to put you in a good muscle memory position down the road when we may actually need to take a base on that foul ball. Because think about it, if a catcher goes out for a pop-up down the first baseline, he makes that play, you tag up on that foul ball, you can't advance on a foul ball anyway. So go back, tag up, maybe you can get a chance to beat that catcher back to the plate in your dash for 90 feet to get there. So all those things are important, but getting back, tagging up on all foul balls, tag up on all foul balls, can't stress that enough. So you're going to stand open to the diamond on anything that's hit from the left field line all the way over into the right field foul territory. Okay, you're going to tag up left foot on the base, using the front part of the base as a starting block, okay, to explode off towards home plate in that sense. Any foul ball that's behind you in foul territory from the left field line over, you're going to line up with your left foot forward, right foot on the base like a starting block, see where that catch is made, and then you're going to make your dash, okay? Even so, even if you're not going to make that tag up, or you're not getting permission to tag from the coach in that sense, and you're not able to make your decision on your own, at least try and draw the throw. And that takes us into our next step here, because drawing a throw is such a thing that really puts some pressure on the defense, and that's what we want to do. We want to do anything we could possibly do to put extra pressure on that defense. And it may be a ball that's hit the shallow left field. It may be a ball that the infielder's backing up on, where he's running in reverse to get there, that he needs to possibly get to in that spot. But anything we can do to make that throw a little bit longer, make him a little bit uncomfortable, is important. So making that extra throw could result in a larger overthrow, because now if the throw comes into the third baseman and it's in short left, and third baseman's the cutoff in that spot, there's a lot of people behind the pitcher, behind the third baseman and the pitcher's mound there, that can actually lead to that overthrow and block that out. So if we're able to put pressure on the defense here, maybe there's an overthrow. It gets by everybody. It gets by the third base, or maybe ends up in no man's land or something. What we want to do is we want to take those 3 hard steps right off the base and sell that we are tagging. So he does have to come up throwing, and maybe it does make him miss the cutoff man. Maybe he does throw straight through, and it's not a good throw. But that extra pressure is super important, and you just need to make sure that you do that. Do not get lazy on the bases at all costs, especially when an infielder is backpedaling on a ball, or the outfielder is coming up and it's kind of a shallow fly ball where he may not think you're going to throw. Maybe it's the left fielder. He's out there. He doesn't have that great of an arm. or the infielder's backing up and it puts him in that precarious spot, you just drawing putting that pressure, making him make that extra throw to the plate is important. And if anything, hey, you made the defense make one extra throw that they normally weren't, and maybe we get some insight into how those guys' arms are out there in the outfield. But it's just another way we could possibly put ourselves in a position to be successful, get a free 90 out of it, and maybe advance to that next base. So here it is one more time, 3 hard steps off the base. I'm just trying to sell it as best as I can, where I know I'm not going, but I'm going to sell it. I'm going to make that guy think I'm going to force that extra 90, force that extra distance on that throw and get that heart rate up a little bit more for that outfielder in that spot or that position player. So now we're at second. So now we're going to head over to second base back again, and we're going to talk a little bit about tag ups in a 5-yard box and how we can possibly advance to the next base when we get there. Out at second base, I think it's important that we understand that not every ball is a fly ball tag up in that spot, and not every ball is going to dictate we're going to run straight back to the base to tag up. So if the ball's hitting right center, I'm going to head back. I'm going to look for a tag, especially if there's someone in front of me. I'm going to see where it is, especially if it's more routine, because I can't go anywhere unless I tag up. So I got to go back to the box to begin with. But if there's a ball in the alley where the center fielder or right fielder, they're kind of both going away from the field and they're dashing, it's not always necessarily going to be a straight tag up. So we're going to read the flight of the ball. We see it. I may have to turn my back here to see the angle, and I'm going to get to what we call a 5-yard box. If closer he gets to the bag, closer he gets to the ball, looks like he's going to catch, I'm going to start shuffling back to the base. As he gets further away from the ball, and I'm reading the trajectory of the flight and them converging, I'm going to shuffle towards third base in that spot. What we don't want is to get all the way to third base, have to run all the way back to tag second, and then we're stuck at second base. We're still in scoring position. So, as I don't want to end up in no man's land, so it's super important that I do read the ball with 5-yard box as best as I possibly can, because once the ball does go up, it's not going to automatically be that tag where I can turn around and advance. I'm going to get back to the base, read it, and then if I need to do that my fake explosion to draw that throw, I need to. Here I am again. I'm going to shuffle. He's getting away from it. He dropped it. It fell in. I'm going to be able to score on that. I'm going to listen to my third base coach talk. Now, this will also be one of those situations where we actually might end up in a spot where we can get back to the base. And if he's far out, we might be able to tag up and score especially on a pretty deep yard where we might not necessarily think that we could in that sense. So it's super important that we understand where we are on the field, where your outfielders are at all times, because if we can put some pressure and take an advantage of an extra 90 feet, and in that case we can round third maybe, and there's an overthrow in the middle and we can score on that. So just putting the extra pressure on the defense, the proper read of that fly ball, that it's not necessarily a straight tag and then we maybe get hosed at the plate, but it is a 5-yard box where the play is fluid until we do see a catch, where we're consistently keeping our feet moving. We're not freezing. We're not locking in. We're going to listen to our third base coach and what he has to say if we're rounding it, we're up, and whatnot, so we can see that overthrow, looking inside the diamond to see how things can shake itself out and not freeze up at any point in time. Always looking to advance to the next base, but also making sure that we don't make extra outs while we're on the bases. So we covered a bunch of different things today. In situational base running, we talked about our primary, secondary leads. We talked about going first to third. We talked about peaking on the in-out overs, on going first to third. We talked about hit and runs. We talked about our cadence and hitting the inside front corner of the bag at second. Good body tilt as it would advance to third. We talked about picking up our third base coach early as possible, especially when the read is behind us, to be able to know if we're going to stand, slide, and or make the turn at third base. We also talked about our leads at second base again as a reminder. We also discussed getting off the base at second base, seeing the ball through in the situational side, whether the contact play is on or we're seeing it through. In addition, we also discussed the tag ups, our third base advance, seeing it through, and our tag ups in our 5-yard boxes. So a lot of base running entail in the situational side of things, and we'll continue to